there are so many people who come to me and say, I wish I was able to do the same, but, and then there's an excuse. Thing is, those excuses are usually easily to overcome, because if your passion is calling you, that's because your passion is calling you. You have to take action to fuel that.
I'm joined by Polike, and I'm really happy to have Prudence with us today. You might have come across her Instagram where she's most active. She's a comic artist and illustrator on a journey to break stigmas and set new, realistic, and inclusive standards. Hi Prudence, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So, you've been spreading self-love for the past years basically on social media and with your art in general, but how did that start?
I did art in school, but sadly I had to drop out because I've had a bad experience with a teacher. I've kind of had it with art, so I dropped the pencil and gave up for a few years, but eventually, like, it's still your passion. You want to pick it back up. And I was working in the call center, and it wasn't doing it for me. Like, I wasn't very, fulfilled in my daily life. So I started doodling again, just on my notepad, and they were comics, because I was like dreaming of a life that wasn't mine at the time. So I was daydreaming on the paper, and I decided, I'm just going to post them on this new Instagram thing, because it kind of looked like Tumblr to me, if you remember Tumblr. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep like some kind of portfolio, but also just to keep track of my process and my progress. I always dreamed of becoming an artist, but I just didn't feel like it was ever going to be for me. At a certain point, like people started following my work, and someone posted it on 9gag. I still don't know to this day who it was, but thank you if that person ever sees this video. Because it went viral, and over the span of a weekend, I think I gained over 10,000 of followers, and it was incredible. And over the course of the next year, that was in 2016, 17 or something, it became a business. I dropped everything that I was doing. I decided to go get my VAT number and become self-employed and start this business. And I was published in Huffington Post, like on Word Panda, Women's Health, Forbes. It's my biggest flex. Just the Forbes article. That's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, what was your goal always, or did you always have the same kind of message, like self-love, body positivity? Was that there from the get-go, or did it come as you went actually?
I think it definitely started as me being an insecure person, not really finding my people in life and finding my place in just the general community. And I always felt quite alone. So I translated those feelings into comics and started finding my community, like people who feel the same way and people who can relate to that. And some aspects and some themes that come to the surface are self-love, body positivity, insecurities, mental health. And those are subjects that are, just coming to the surface quite often, because they always were my biggest insecurities, and I just found a lot of people who could relate to that. Also, like eating disorders were a big theme, and then people started messaging me that like I saved their life, or my art saved their life, and they felt more seen and more heard and not alone in their struggles. And after I kind of healed, or they healed me in a way, because I also found people who hurt me, I just kept on doing it, because it's just the best feeling is to feel seen and heard, and I wanted to create that safe space for them.
That sense of belonging that you can create on social media kind of contrasts with what people usually see in social media, right? Which is toxic standards and
Yeah.
and sometimes some toxic behaviors as well. So it's really good. But back when you started posting on Instagram, you were drawing like with a pencil on paper,
Oh
I
yeah,
believe.
that's right. Yeah, I was drawing in my sketchbook because that was actually the reason why I started posting on Instagram, is because I had all these sketchbooks. You can see like they're all right here. I think I filled up like 2 rows of these, and I drew them traditionally. I made a picture, posted them on Instagram, and then like had my sketchbooks like piled up in the basement. Sadly, thankfully they have a very nice spot now. uh,
So what was the reason for you to evolve kind of into using an iPad full time, basically?
I started taking on projects, and the projects, you always have a few correction rounds, and sometimes it occurred that they wanted a different color. So um, changing the color of a traditional drawing is quite impossible if you're like, even with Photoshop, like it's just not the same in natural results. So and also again, drawing traditionally and then having to scan it in, editing it in Photoshop, it took me so much time and effort to do all that I was like, okay, this can go a lot easier. And like, I made the investment to purchase an iPad. At first, I had this iPad, like it arrived, and I was like, okay, I really don't like it. I installed Procreate, which is the drawing app that I use. And I was drawing, and I was like, this does not feel right. Because you're drawing on a glass screen, like you come from paper, which I love the sound and the texture and just everything about the paper I was missing on the iPad. So the iPad was laying there for at least 4 months. I wasn't touching it, and then I heard about like the paper like feeling screen protectors, and there are a lot on the market. Um, and I've read a lot of bad reviews about some brands. But then there was paper like, and no one had a really bad thing to say about paper like. I was like, okay. So I already bought the iPad. Okay, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And I never looked back. I started using my iPad finally. Otherwise, it would still probably lay in a corner somewhere. Um, but I really had everything all at once. I had the texture that I love to draw on. I had the efficiency of drawing on an iPad and the ability to change practically everything. Like if there were adjustments to be made, I could just adjust them in like a blink of an eye.
So you started drawing on Procreate. Are there any other apps that you actually use to do that?
I use Photoshop on my computer. I'm super happy with the Adobe package on desktop. I just don't feel it on the iPad. I only use Procreate actually. Other than that, I downloaded the new Dreams app, which is the animation app from Procreate.
You've been working for 7 years as a full-time creative, let's say. Have you developed any rituals or habits to kind of get you going, to get you into your flow? And I'm asking that because as a creative myself, sometimes I really struggle to get me going.
Yeah, you do need that trigger, right? Like, especially to get into the creative flow. I have a worse sleep, I think, in existence. Like, I just have to go to bed at a certain time. And when I surpass it, like, my entire sleep routine is just, like, screwed. I have to start all over. So I always try to go to bed, like, around the same time. And I always get up at the same time as well. So I have 2 alarms, one at 8 and one at 5 past 8. And so the second one is when I have to just get up, count to 3, and just get up, get out the bed. Then I make my coffee and oatmeal, and then I have like a journal, but I don't spend too much effort on doing it nicely. I just want to brain dump, and oftentimes there are things coming out of it, like in that journal session as well. I don't really necessarily get into that creative flow because of the journaling. So when I don't feel it yet, I would there are some things that I do that can trigger my creativity, and that's first of all, I listen to someone that inspires me, like whether it's on a podcast or um, uh, seeing someone on. I try to avoid Instagram though. I don't go on any media sites the moment I wake up. Um, I also don't watch the news or don't watch TV, and try to have as little triggers to negativity as I can. Otherwise, I cannot get into that positive side of like that boosts the creativity. Um, I also have subscription to Audible, which is also very helpful because listening to a book is the best thing ever to draw, because I love reading. And I feel like sometimes I long to the moment that I can continue reading a certain book, or not even a certain book, that I just can continue reading something. And when someone is reading it for me, I eliminate a feeling of guilt that I don't do enough to have some like leisure time, because I love to draw, but it's also still a job at the end of the day. Like some things you just have to finish, and some things are just not really nice to do, like bookkeeping or something. So during work, like listening to a book is something that really helps my creative flow. But really having a routine and doing it, like certain things are set in stone, like getting up, making coffee, making oatmeal, doing the journal thing. Other things are just like depending on what kind of day it is. I also would use the Pomodoro technique if it's like a really bad day. Like doing it in chunks of like 25 minutes really boosts. And even like if you have a to-do list that you need to have checked off by the end of the day, you can definitely have it done with you by using the Pomodoro technique. So I would set an alarm for 25 minutes, and you have this cute little app as well that with everything that you complete, with every 25 minutes that you complete, you get like a tomato, and it's like so motivating to do.
Where do you draw inspiration from? Is there any medium, or is it just life in general? I've been following you, so I know that you actually take a lot of inspiration from situations in life, in everyday life, but maybe there is something else.
Yeah. There's indeed a huge part of my own personal life that is being in situations and feelings that are translated in the comics, but there's also a big part of like what I see happening in the world. I don't watch the news, but I hear a lot and I feel the anxiety. I also talk to my community, so when people send me a DM, I take the time to read it and reply. And as much as I can, sometimes I do have a bad day and I miss DMs, but that's definitely not on purpose. I try to get through all of them, because that's what I find is really important. I don't want to have a large distance between me and my community, because it's just such a vulnerable place to exist in. And feeling the anxiety is, I feel it personally too. And I take on a lot of the feelings that other people have. So when I translate it into art, it's just something, I don't know, it's like I can do something meaningful for the people whose voices are silent or silenced.
What's your favorite drawing? Do you have one that you really love more than the others?
Like the coming out of the pool one. I don't know if you remember. It's an older drawing, but I remember I really had a very good day. I still remember also where I drew it, because I was living in my apartment still. It was very, very tiny, and I had a balcony, but it wasn't really a balcony, which is the roof of the person who was living underneath. But I was like, when I climbed out the window, I was able to sit on it. So it was a very warm day, and I was like imagining myself being in a pool. there was like no way that I was going to find any outside pool, but I was just living that drawing, and it didn't really have anything special or special message or anything deep to it, but it was very nice to draw.
Are there any accessories like apps or physical accessories besides paper, like that you already mentioned, that you use on a regular basis that help you actually create better and be more efficient with your work?
Whew. Yeah, there are accessories that I use for my iPad. This is my iPad, and I have like the folio. Then there's like the grips. I I don't think I have any other accessories like besides like sunglasses. But you know, when I go outside, I always have a pair of sunglasses with me because I don't like drawing in direct sunlight. But it's still very useful that you can just adjust your light on the screen and just draw outside, like in the shadow or something. But this is the folio. I'm very like this is the best accessory ever because you know you can just turn it in and twist it like however it suits you best. And then I have the grip for my pencil, and the good thing with this is that it actually doesn't feel rubbery. I remember having like having used grips that felt very rubbery and I didn't like the texture. And then I have the glove, which I'm finally able to talk about. Is this one for, you know, when it's the hotter days where you get like the sweaty palms, and or larger pieces where you have to flow a lot more, and your hand doesn't get stuck on the screen.
This is like Paperlike's newest product to be out,
Yeah.
and you were part of the developing process as
Yes.
well. You were one of our trusted testers. So if you could tell us just a bit about that evolution that you saw, and the final one that you got, that'd be nice.
First and foremost, I think we've been in contact about the glove for 3 years. It was like mid-COVID somewhere, so it must be 3 years already. The first gloves I think were, because I don't know if you could tell, but they are fingerless. I think I was one of the people who mentioned. I don't know if other people have mentioned it, but the thing is, like, I always undo my, like, the undo gestures are the 2 taps. I always use those 2 fingers for it. So that is a big one. When I saw this glove and they had like fingerless tips, like, this is it. This is everything we need. And the first gloves were either very light or they were very heavy in terms of fabric. And for me, it works so well that it has like both now. So on this side, you have like the heavier fabric, and then here is like the light fabric. So you actually don't really feel like you're wearing anything that's not supposed to be there. Like, there's a lot of flexibility, and also undoing something is like, you don't really have to do it all with 2 fingers. Like, I use my entire hand when I work on Procreate and on the iPad. You don't have your controls like you would on a keyboard, so you want to utilize everything that you, and you don't want to adjust your gestures either, or pay attention to having to adjust them, or when you're in your workflow, you have a certain workflow, you want to keep that. So it was very important to me when the glove came that nothing changed in terms of user experience. I tried different gloves before Paperlike ever had the idea of launching a glove, and they all were so unnatural. The texture of the fabric that was used was very artificial. This is like, I don't know if it's like actual leather or something, probably not. The feeling that you have is like, it's not really icky on your skin. There's probably also polyester in this part of the glove, but it's not like, you know, the shiny texture that is mostly used for gloves. I don't like it. I'm actually, now that I think about it, like with the grips as well, and textures are very important to me. I don't want to be triggered by anything that feels uncomfortable while doing something that I'm very much passionate about, you know? So maybe that's just me. Maybe other people can relate to that as well. But that was an important thing for me. I'm very happy with the result of the glove. Very, very happy.
Before we go, I actually wanted to ask you if you have any advice for people who maybe want to start drawing at all, or who want to start taking their art a bit more seriously?
There are so many people who come to me and say, I wish I was able to do the same, but, and then there's an excuse. Thing is, those excuses are usually easily to overcome, because if your passion is calling you, that's because your passion is calling you. You have to take action to fuel that. And there are always, like, I had my own challenges. I had my own dreams crushed, or I thought that someone else had the power of having, like, crushing my dreams. But the power that you have inside is all that you need to pursue your passion, actually make the most out of it. You can make a career, and it's super simple now. These days you have everything, like literally the palm of your hand, to make your dreams come true. The only thing that you have to do is be consistent and put out your art or anything that you're passionate about, and keep doing it with great passion, and you will attract. There's this quote, I don't know if you ever saw the movie La La Land, but there's this quote, and it went something like this: people love what other people are passionate about. And I really loved that quote, and it always stuck with me. It was just something that I kept reminding myself of, like, if you do something with passion and consistency and keep taking action, nothing can go wrong. You will attract other people. Like, energy attracts energy, and I firmly believe in that. That's why you need to take action.
Exactly.
Taking action is a really important one, because people cannot see your art or your work when it's just laying on your desk. You really need to put it out there and be vulnerable and have people like and dislike it. So it's a lovely process, and there will always be people who are or feel passionate towards your work, but passion comes in two ways, like in a positive and negative way. You just have to welcome everything, and never let it get let it get to you. Not let the positivity get into your head, but also not let the negativity get the best of you, something like that. But I also want to recommend the book, if that's okay. Which is thank you, which is The Artist's Way from Juliet Cameron, I think. And it's also a really good book for any artist out there. It's something that I was recommended, like, back in the days when I was streaming on Twitch during COVID. And I read it, and it just resonated so much with me. It also has a great section on ideas and how ideas come to us, and that, like, we're kind of the vessel of transferring those ideas into pieces of art. It's just a wonderful book. I would recommend any artist to read it.
Yeah, I have it in my Kindle. Haven't read it yet, but it's it's there to read.
It has a lot of assignments too that you need to do every week. So you go on an artist date, and you basically take yourself out on dates, and you not push yourself, but you motivate yourself to make your art, it's just a wonderful book.
And I will take you up on that. Thank you so much for your time here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very honored.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.